Thanks everyone for being here. This may be one of our last press conferences outside, but we're going to stretch it here. So thanks for bearing with us. We have some exciting news to share with you and some exciting speakers to share their work and what we're going to do with respect to graffiti. I want to make some very specific thanks. Erica White from across the street, she was here. She's doing some shopping, but I want to thank her and Marcus Laleo, I believe I'm pronouncing Marcus's last name correctly, who owned the spot across the street, the Fats Chicken and Waffles, for letting us use their area. I want to thank Scott Lindsay from our City Attorney's Office and Gregory Spots and AP Diaz, our new Superintendent of Parks. Gregory Spots, of course, SDOT Director, SBU staff for the work we're doing, and our community service officers. I have some other things that I'll do toward the end of my remarks. This place where we are today is sort of symbolic of the Central District and what's happening here, and that's why we thought it very appropriate to start this kind of work here. Our partnership with the community, we'll describe in graffiti, I will describe it sort of as a paint and partnership approach. I do want to say before I go much further, I want to once again extend my public condolences to the Pickett family. We all know we lost Devon, and he was one of our warriors in our community. I've spoken recently with his wife Kiana, and we will do some remembrances, but I didn't want a moment in the Central District to go without mentioning the family and the pain that we all suffered as a community. The rise of prolific graffiti is symbolic of our city's historical neglect of our walls and our people. When I took office in 2 weeks, there was a mural defaced and vandalized with inflammatory graffiti. As many of you know, they often, as we've seen in certain communities, contain hate speech. This is not artwork in the traditional sense, but often these are very mean-spirited and hateful comments as well. So our approach recognizes that there could be that portion, but that there could also be a need for artistic expression. And so when I describe the 6 pillars of our approach, it recognizes that there's still a need for expression, a need for art. And as we work with those in this industry, and we have some community leaders that are passionate about graffiti abatement and removal, but also passionate about artwork. So our very holistic approach toward approaching graffiti, I'll again recognize our 6-fold approach. Our plan that we've developed, we've done some internal analysis of what the city's done in historical times and in recent years, and quite frankly, we are rewriting our approach under our One Seattle vision. The fact is, we've seen an increase in graffiti since the pandemic. The statistics based on reporting to the city say a 50% increase in graffiti since 2019. That's 20,000, I'll repeat that number, 20,000 reports of tags and graffiti vandalism. But quite frankly, you don't need statistics to see what's happening in Seattle with respect to graffiti. The truth is, the negative impacts are tangible, they're not theoretical. For communities bombarded with hate speech, like the Jewish Family Services earlier this year, we know that again, there's been many communities attacked with this kind of hate speech in the form of graffiti. For residents who rely on city signage, we see our city signage unreadable. That is unacceptable. For small businesses and private owners, they're required, in addition to trying to meet their bottom line and serve customers and share their expertise, they're now required to, of course, repair their walls from an unexpected act of graffiti. This is unfair to them. Now, as mayor, what I believe is we have also blank slates in our city that would be absolutely perfect for artistic expression. We have to recognize, if you live in Seattle, let's treat it as a beautiful city. We are the Emerald City. Let's treat it as such, and our investment strategy and our implementation and our hearts and our minds and even our wind should sing the song of artistic expression in a positive way to treat this Emerald City the way it should be treated. So, what does this plan entail? It's around 6 sort of key pillars, and I'll walk through on somewhat of a high level the pillars, and then we'll have some other speakers after myself. The first pillar is implementing best practices to increase abatement. And we have some volunteers here that have been doing this work just personally for a number of years. But our plan will enhance our staffing and our resources for Seattle Public Utilities graffiti rangers to allow them to more easily remove graffiti using specialized equipment and effectively discouraging re-tagging. Now currently, when we examine what the city historically does, we found out that there are 18 departments that touch graffiti in one way or the other. So in our One Seattle approach, we looked at how we can consolidate and communicate more effectively, work together to improve our interdepartmental coordination, and we have some leaders within the city who have stepped up for that task. So again, our first strategy will be our best practices in increasing abatement, and we have the budget proposed to do that. The second piece will be increasing our assistance to reduce graffiti on private property. You know, we don't want to get too deep into a penalization toward property owners when they are in fact the victims. And so under our strategy, new resources will be offered to victims of vandalism, and existing resources will be made easier and more equitable to access. In addition to an abatement kit pilot program, the Office of Economic Development's new storefront repair fund, as an example, our SPU graffiti rangers will proactively offer abatement services at low or no cost to eligible property owners. And we're very excited about that kind of partnership. Thirdly, we are describing what we are deploying as a Many Hands Art Initiative. And Director Royal Alley Barnes will talk a little bit about that, but we want to engage artists and businesses and volunteers and others to activate spaces with art. We want to mitigate and prevent graffiti through what we say many hands, many artists out there. So through our Seattle Office of Arts and Culture, we will seek partners to install new public art. And perhaps many of the people that, for one reason or the other, like to engage in graffiti, perhaps they could display their talent in helping us positively activate areas. We're looking at developing artist-led youth programs to give young people a sanctioned, safe way to pursue an interest in street art, and we're very excited about that. Fourth, we're going to enhance our volunteer programming and coordination. Building on experience from anti-graffiti volunteers, our plan will include up to 1,000 graffiti abatement kits. I believe we have one here, and we have some individuals that have helped us, again, going to the community, finding out people who are doing this kind of work, helping us develop what is an effective tool to use. And so we have developed these abatement kits, and we'll demonstrate how to use them effectively to those who want to help. The city will launch a new Days of Caring in each district starting in 2023. Each district will have a new Day of Caring program, and will bring volunteers and community groups together toward a common cause to beautify their neighborhoods. We'll work closely with the City Council and neighborhood groups to bring us together under our One Seattle vision. Fifth, a new approach to enforcement. So working with our city attorney's office and the Seattle Police Department, we're working to increase the enforcement of graffiti offenses. We will work with the defense bar. We will understand from community leaders what's going on with this activity. Are we enforcing our laws appropriately and fairly and constitutionally? But should we consider changes to make sure that we are discouraging unlawful conduct? This will include community service work, mentorship programs, alternative avenues for creative expression to discourage future offenses. We recognize that this is not a crime of violence, but we also recognize that we don't want that kind of activity to occur on our walls, and we want to work with, again, the defense attorneys and the prosecutor's office, the city attorney's office, to understand what's going on here and how we can discourage that activity. And our last pillar of our 6 pillars is continued collaboration with the Washington State Department of Transportation. You've seen our collaborative effect, our collaborative relationship with the state. Yesterday I spent a lot of time with the Governor Jay Inslee, and I thanked him and his staff for working with us collaboratively. We hope that they see our energy around this activity and they continue to help us with properties that rightfully belong to the state and that they control. So our collaboration with the Washington State Department of Transportation will continue, and I hope we believe that the people of Seattle will see, particularly with I-5 expansion, joint work, and areas around those right-of-ways, you'll see continued and perhaps accelerated abatement strategies. So, just like, this is a little challenging with this wind, by the way. Multitasking. But you hear me say in the Harrell administration, we don't make excuses as I deal with this wind. Okay, so I tried to describe to you our 6-fold strategy around our pillars. There are some more perhaps granular comments on our strategies, and we're gonna have a few folks speak after me, and I want to introduce to you our Seattle Public Utilities General Manager, Andrew Lee. Andrew, please come forward.
Hi, everyone. Seattle Public Utilities is known for providing essential services like your drinking water, your drainage and wastewater services, as well as weekly garbage pickup. But we have been actually providing other critical services for decades that enhance our community, and one of them is graffiti abatement. Our Graffiti Rangers team that the mayor spoke of formed almost 30 years ago. It currently consists of 6 SPU staff who abate graffiti in all parts of the city. Not only do they respond to graffiti, to reports of graffiti, they proactively clean up once a week in each sector of the city to ensure that services are equitably distributed. During the pandemic, that team increased their proactive cleanup to 5 times a week, visiting multiple neighborhoods, including Chinatown International District, Little Saigon, the Central District, and West Seattle. We have an AMP that launched for our staff 5 years ago that has helped us to be more efficient and effective. But as the mayor mentioned, despite being responsive and proactive, there is still much work to be done, as we have noted a huge spike in graffiti reports in the last year. Additional funding would provide more resources like extra graffiti rangers and more painting-related equipment for SPU to respond, especially supporting that second pillar that the mayor spoke of, abating graffiti on private property. With note on that, we know that there is a burden when homes or businesses are defaced by graffiti against their permission. They are victims of a crime, and that's why SPU, when we lead enforcement efforts, we always lead with education. We also offer paint and supplies. And just recently, we're also offering staff support. So as the mayor mentioned, we're going to be proactively upping our efforts to offer free staff support to paint when private properties are impacted by graffiti. Our assistance is also going to proactively offer abatement services in graffiti hotspots to eligible property owners, including residents, small businesses, nonprofits, and victims of hate graffiti. I'll say I'm incredibly proud of the work that our SPU staff do. Over the last 12 months, the Graffiti Rangers have actually removed 100% of reported graffiti within the right-of-way areas that we're responsible for within 10 business days. And more than 98% of the graffiti was actually abated within two business days. In 2021, the mayor cited the example of the Jewish Family Center. There were similarly 28 racist, hate, vulgar reports on city property, and all were abated within 24 hours. We have programs like Adopt a Street, where we provide volunteers with materials and training to remove graffiti in their neighborhoods. And we're really excited to continue to collaborate with the city on new and expanded volunteer programs like the Days of Service. SPU also provides funding to 9 business improvement areas throughout the city to augment their cleaning services, including graffiti abatement. Just like to close by saying that with these additional investments, to SPU and the other city departments, we're really confident that we can strengthen our efforts to keep our city beautiful. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much, Andrew. Before I introduce our next speaker, I do want to make 2 points that I don't think I made clear. That we put in our budget this year approximately $950,000. I think we've passed out a few points on this matter. About $950,000 that would go toward abatement efforts and support for our property owners impacted by graffiti and enhancing volunteer opportunities. Every single opportunity we have to unite this city around a common goal is what we're trying to do. We believe that the whole city are asking for this kind of response from the city, and I talked earlier in another speech on another occasion about a core competency in the city, going back to the basics. This is something that the government should be partnering with business owners and community members are doing, and that's what our administration is all about. I also wanted to thank some particular members, Adia Memory, Paul Jackson, and Liz on our team for really, before we had this press conference, really going back to the drawing board and doing an internal analysis of what we've been doing and how we can improve it. So this strategy certainly was not done overnight. We looked at best practices throughout this country, what we can do, what partnerships we need to develop, and how we need to change the narrative once again to develop the Emerald City that we're so proud of. And having said that, this is a good opportunity to talk about the artistic pillar, our arts director, Royal Alley Barnes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You know, a hard act to follow is the energy that comes from being joyful in this municipality and in this city. So I want to say it again. Good afternoon. I also want to thank you, Mayor Harrell, for rolling out this innovative graffiti plan that is focused on listening to the many voices of our communities. Graffiti abatement is one strategy in decreasing graffiti across the city. The Many Hands, Mr. Mayor, your Many Hands art initiative is the other. It is the other. Two sides, one coin, in the bank of social cohesion. The goal of the Many Hands Art Initiative is to engage with artists, businesses, volunteers, youth, and others in the community to activate spaces with art, mitigating and preventing graffiti. With the Arts Hope Corps Street Art Request for Proposals, in RFP, artist-led cohorts will install and maintain authentic, community-created art, providing opportunities for creative workers, yes, creative workers in this economy throughout Seattle, focusing on graffiti-prone community areas. Arts opened this pilot program as an opportunity earlier this month. It will be closing, I think it opened like October 17th, will be closing November 8th. We're excited to see what the call will bring in. And it will support artist-led programs encouraging youth and others towards safe, creative alternatives to graffiti. The Hope's Corps Many Hands Art Initiative RFP creates a transformative, equitable, sustainable, collaborative community spaces to elevate street art and nurture new voices. Approaching this increased graffiti activity through a spatial justice lens, street art, means creating opportunities for these new voices as street artists to work with community and create new visuals, murals throughout the city, murals throughout Seattle. The Reverend Martin Luther, the wind in my face, it's beautiful, but it also gets dust in your eyes. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. mural right behind us has been a community icon since 1995, and it was ungraffitied for 26 years until recently. The mural's original artist, James Crepinall, the community, and Mrs. White, other volunteers, and arts worked together to return the work to its graffiti-free status in less than a week. The artist and community response to the street art call is going to be exciting. It's going to help turn the corner on decreasing graffiti, and it's going to support a One Seattle of murals. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Royal. Beautiful. So, in recent years, and some have been doing the work for decades, we've had community heroes almost single-handedly trying to take on graffiti in their particular neighborhoods. And we want to recognize one particular individual, Denise Chase, who will say a few words, particularly around the Wallingford Woodland Park neighborhood area, who sort of exemplifies one of our pillars on how do we assist and help those that, again, want to help beautify the city. They do this kind of abatement work simply because they want to beautify their neighborhoods. And so we thought it very appropriate to hear from one of our champions in the city, Denise Chase. Denise.
Thank you, Mayor, for inviting me. And I just want to say that I am only one person and feel very honored to represent all of the volunteers in this city, because there is at least one person in every single community that is out there leading the way and making a difference in their community. So it's a big honor for me to be here representing all of those people. I'm really passionate about this issue, and it's not that I'm a real nerd and that I'm passionate about graffiti or picking up litter, but I am compassionate about community, and I think that when we care for our community, it really shows in taking care of the graffiti and the litter that's around. And I've lived here a long time, and I want to be proud of the city that we live in. I don't want it to walk down and have visitors from other cities think that we don't all appreciate the beauty that we have. And so that's kind of how I got started. I mean, I've lived here a long time. I've had dogs forever. I walk dogs in the park. It seemed just natural to pick up the litter I was walking by. And so that's what I did. And for many years, I could take a grocery bag out and pick up the litter. And in recent years, I'm taking 30-gallon bags out to pick up litter in the same area. And I must say, Mayor, in the last 6 months, I'm back to my grocery bag in my neighborhood, and I want to thank you for that. It's really a big difference. I'm starting to see results of everybody coming together. And again, more than what I do is the response I get. I'm never out there without having somebody say, do you get paid for this? Are you volunteering? Are you with a group? Are you just doing this? Are you working off your community service hours? And I say, no, it's just where I live, and I'm proud of where I am, and that's why I'm out here. And so it creates that sense of community. Every one of those people now say, you know, if you can do this, I can do it too. And then what I did see is exactly what your data shows, and that's that the graffiti has grown, and it's everywhere, and it's now become the new litter of our city. And so I complained about it, and I reported it to the city, and then I realized that I could be part of the solution, or I could be part of the problem. So I started painting out graffiti, and I picked 2 areas that are close to me, because what I saw is the group that are 8 people in our entire city trying to keep the graffiti at hand and at bay couldn't keep up with it. They would come and clean something up, and it was tagged the next day or the next week. Well, I walk by that every single day, and I now have my paint and my rollers, and when I walk by, I just get rid of it. And I have 2 spots, and I must say that they're getting a little tired of me. I have a little more time and a little more paint than the taggers do. And so I've been able to keep those 2 places clean. And again, every time I'm out there, I've had people say, can I buy the paint for you? Can I give you money for the paint? I must say, when I first started, I wanted to pick some really unique color and have my tag also, but I decided that defeated the purpose. So I have paint that matches the cities, and I paint out the tags. And unfortunately, some of those tags have been violent and anti-Semitic, and I can walk by and get rid of it immediately. And so I just really appreciate your bringing volunteers and the city together, because I'm already seeing results, and I'm thrilled to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Wait, Denise. Dave, would be wasted if we didn't recognize. We want to hand you this. This is our One Seattle Service Award to Denise Chase. It's like the key to the city here. And we want to, if there's one picture I hope that we captures, this one right here, because this is what One Seattle's about right now. We realize we have our responsibility to do, but we can't do it alone. Thank you for your leadership, Denise. Thank you very much. Don't put that on eBay, by the way. So our last speaker sort of symbolizes our partnership with the state. This is the Washington State Department of Transportation Northwest Region Maintenance Communications Lead, James Poling. And we thought it very appropriate, being one of our strongest partners in this work, here to say a few words. So I invite James to the microphone. Thank you, James.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the city for inviting WashDOT to speak today. My name is James Poling. I am the Assistant Communications Manager for the Northwest region of WashDOT. We have a very large region. Thank you. We have a very large region stretching from the Canadian border in Bellingham all the way down to the Pierce County line and Mount Rainier. And Seattle and King County are the core of our population centers. Graffiti remains a tremendous challenge, as the mayor noted, as all the speakers have noted, and that's especially true on our right-of-way and our roadways. Our bridge crews are our primary removers of graffiti. However, our sign and our tunnel crews handle their respective areas and specialties. We have made tremendous progress in the past 5 years in improving our efficiency in removing graffiti. Some examples of that are partnering with our contractors on major projects such as Revive I-5 or the mega project for 520, and having them remove graffiti during these closures during their work adjacent to these areas. We've also become more efficient at treating tunnel graffiti during our maintenance tunnel closures that happen quarterly or so, such as I-90 here in the city. The challenges that remain are just the sheer amount of volume of graffiti. One challenge our crews have had in the Revive I-5 area is that we've painted over the same locations up to 7 times this summer. It's very repetitive, but we continue to treat these areas. Specialized equipment is another challenge. Graffitists take safety risks that our crews will not take. It is unsafe for them to paint what they do and tag what they do, but it also requires us to get specialized equipment to reach these areas, and also requires potential lane closures and delays to the traveling public. We also have challenges in tunnel paint, which is reflective to brighten the tunnel and provide safety to the traveling public. When that needs repainted, that requires specialized paint as well, which is another great challenge we face. The last obstacle we really face right now is our maintenance crews are responsible for taking care of the graffiti, and we have up to 100 vacancies right now and staffing shortages in maintenance right now. We're grateful for our crews who are working around the clock, doing a great job, and we are recruiting hard right now. We really need additional help in that regard. If anyone's interested in a permanent position, contributing to their community, contributing to their region, I encourage you to look in these opportunities. We are actively hiring and really need assistance in this matter. I'm very grateful, the whole agency is grateful for our partnerships with the city, the community volunteers and organizations. They do a tremendous job. They are tremendous partners, and we're very grateful for that. And we remain aligned in our mutual goal of tackling this challenge head on. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Your leadership is paying dividends for us. Thank you for your work. And with that, we'll entertain a few questions. Yes, Jamie, can you help me direct the questions, please?
So, Mayor Harrell, what evidence is there that beautification actually improves safety? I'd imagine it's hard to measure that correlation.
Yeah, I'll repeat the question as I heard it. What evidence is there that graffiti removal improves public safety? Well, actually, I think everyone by now is sort of familiar with the broken window syndrome, that when you neglect an area, that often bad things happen. And you know, we look sort of hard at certain, I think it was referred to as a graffiti hot zone in certain areas that, again, where there are less eyes and less activity, less commerce, less police presence, that it just, again, bad things happen. So I'm not going to present to you from a criminologist standpoint the data that would suggest that, but I would suggest there's a lot of theory out there that when we neglect areas and we neglect people, bad things happen. And I don't know if I need data to suggest that. I think we have lived experience that would suggest that. And at some point, lived experience will almost prevail over hard data. My lived experience is that when areas are neglected, again, bad things happen.
Yeah, Mayor, how does this address the just chronic, every single day tagging the same place? Does this move the needle on that, and if so, how?
Yeah, it's a good question about the everyday tagging, and I think James talked about an area being tagged 7 times, and it's like a cycle. And quite frankly, that's why this new, unprecedented approach tries to address that. What compels a person to do that over and over? What statement are they making? Who are these people? And so in looking at the law and how we treat that, we also want to look at who the people are, who the individuals are. And under Royal Alley Barnes' leadership, perhaps they do want artistic expression. So I think you know that my approach toward public safety is I'm willing to make the tough decisions, but I also want to understand why people behave the way they do. So again, we want to stop the abatement graffiti. We want to stop that cycle, and that's why we are implementing this new holistic approach to stop this sort of merry-go-round on these issues. And quite honestly, we even asked the questions in drawing up the plan, or what effect did the pandemic have on people? What kinds of antisocial behavior are occurring in other cities and throughout this country because of the pandemic? And so we're trying to better understand the psychology behind this activity to make sure that we're treating all people fairly and constitutionally, but we don't want that circular process, and we think this approach will help us in that regard.
I was hoping that you might be able to help define the differences between graffiti, art, and vandalism, per se.
Define the differences between graffiti, art, vandalism.
I'll repeat the question so you know what I'm responding to. I think the question was a definition of graffiti, art, and vandalism, the distinction. Well, that's not exactly on my speaking notes, so let me wing it so someone can cringe when I say this. Art. I might pass on that question, because art, as we all know, is in the eye of the beholder, right? So you may see vandalism and graffiti, or vandalism and art, and I may see something differently. So let me say what we can all agree on. There's hate speech out there. That is not art. That is hate speech, and that is unlawful. So we're certainly going after that. We also believe, however, I have seen what some may call graffiti that actually looks really nice. And the question becomes, perhaps with the state's approval, are there areas in this city where we can have art? And we know firsthand that we've had areas where, say, here's a beautiful canvas. So what we're trying to do is say, let's encourage art. But I will tell you, if you own a restaurant, you own a small business, and you come back and your walls are all sprayed with something you do not want, that is not art. That is graffiti. So I think that this issue and this distinction will resolve itself. What's most important, at least for me as the mayor, is to stop the hate speech, to stop our signage destruction, to help small businesses remedy that they don't want on their property, and then we could debate perhaps whether something is art or graffiti. But I think that issue will resolve itself.
Excuse me.
I can hear you, Mike. Go ahead.
How can you work with the Office of Arts and Culture to get some of these graffiti artists to become our next muralist?
I think the question is, how can I work with the arts of culture to get some of these people committing acts of graffiti to become our next artists? Well, that's a good question. So therein lies the work we're doing. I don't think anyone's really approached it from that standpoint. And so, quite frankly, there were recent articles written about the typical profile of someone doing this kind of work. There were some gender descriptions and an age description. Well, we know one size doesn't fit all. Part of our work will be going into the community, if you will, understanding their culture, having a dialogue. I trust that many people doing this act, and I don't, one of the strategies we're openly talking about is to try to have a dialogue with those doing the work now. Why are you doing this? What are you attempting to convey? So that's going to be the ongoing work, and I want those, I'm sure there's social media and there's communities of people that are doing acts of graffiti, and we want to establish a partnership, and we're asking our director, Ruel Alley Barnes, to establish this partnership with them, because if done right, you guys catch that? Okay. All right. See that? They're honking because they want this graffiti strategy to work. Well, we want to have this dialogue, because if we do this work right, we can beautify this city. I'll give you a specific example, and I'm clearly off script. Perhaps there's some Native American art in certain areas where we could talk about the indigenous culture, right? Perhaps there's some cultural art in certain areas where they're trying to keep their culture and preserve it, and we could beautify that area. That's the work we're going to do in addition to abatement and enforcement. So we have a great opportunity here in this approach. It's a One Seattle approach, and we'll get to know the graffiti community probably unlike any other administrations have known them before.
So clarifying it, was it $950,000 spent on abatement measures last year or moving forward?
Yeah, that $950,000 that I described was what's in the budget now that the city council are now examining, in addition to, I think, approximately $3 million or so that was embedded in the budget. So it's new funds to implement the strategy that I'm describing today.
Okay, so that's how you're going to be funding the city's
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. One Seattle.